We're coming in hot with inspiring guests, witty banter, and colorful commentary for today's veterans and military community. This is the Tango Alpha Lima podcast.
They call me crazy cause I'm facing all my giants. They try to scare me into thinking I can fight it. They tell me I should never even think of trying. But that's just me, I'm gonna live out in defiance.
Hello, Alphas. Welcome back to the Tango Alpha Lima experience. We are in April, and April means a lot of things, but it's Children and Youth Month here at the American Legion. Ashley, do you know the stuff that we do, and one of our pillars being children and youth?
Oh, the pillars. Tell me about it.
Well, Children and Youth is amazing. We do an oratorical contest, which I've been the timekeeper for, not to brag, but I've watched the time and tell them to stop talking. Actually, you don't tell them to stop. You let them finish, but then they get deductions for going over.
Oh my God, you don't even tell them. So they're just like, I'm doing great. And then you're
you get visual cues.
Oh, okay.
You got a minute. You got 30 seconds.
Wrap it up.
And then you hear them all of a sudden go, it's awesome. And it's about the Constitution. It's great. Then, of course, we have Boys State, and eventually they get to Boys Nation. And on the auxiliary side, there's Girls State, and they eventually get to Girls Nation. And there's I was shocked to learn that Legion Baseball is first in Americanism program, right, Holly? Mm-hmm. And then it kind of bleeds over into children and youth. I don't know how that happened, but I guess maybe that's where the phrase American is baseball and apple pie. So I think we should have an apple pie contest for Americanism as well. You're welcome, American Legion. No charge for that suggestion. Just give me a free piece of pie. So what do you think? You want to go back and be a kid? Do all this stuff?
Yeah, I would have played Legion baseball had I known the opportunity existed.
You played for competitive leagues.
I was on the travel teams. We went all over. I miss playing baseball. Playing baseball was like, I don't know, the like a very confident time of my childhood because I practiced so much and like knew where my skills were. So man, I remember I think I still have my original like baseball bat and how many ounces it was. Like tried to get the lightest bat, so just
What do you say you still have
faster? I think I do. I think actually, my dad has it in a storage container that he's kept for 20 years, which is a good investment.
He probably has it in a case. All right. Yeah. You know what else? Sports and activities are good for. They're good for a healthy mental state of mind. So I think you have a story about states of mind and our struggles with them as a country and especially as the military community.
I do. Here's a story from militarytimes.com. It says suicide surges among soldiers are not inherently tied to wars, according to this study. Suicide rates among active duty soldiers do not appear to be significantly impacted during times of war, a recent study found. Despite an uptick in suicides amid the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, historically times of combat are not solely accountable for surges in self-harm among troops, according to the study slated for the May issue of Psychiatry Research. In a review of data between 1900 and 2020, researchers analyzed historical trends of suicide rates between active duty soldiers and civilians, aiming to paint a more contextualized picture of how combat trauma affects both populations. They found the rates largely paralleled one another. Given the apparent convergence of U.S. and similarly aged U.S. civilian male annual suicide rates, larger, more universal factors than combat may be similarly affecting both populations, the authors suggest. The study builds on an extensive 2019 investigation from the authors on Army suicide between the years 1819 and 2017. The results showed an increase in suicide rates among soldiers during the Vietnam War and the recent wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, but decreases during the American Civil War, Spanish-American War, World War I, World War II, and the Korean War. The authors acknowledge that they do not know exactly what drives many of the suicide surges, be it military-specific factors or another influential element of an evolving society, though they can hope that the study will better inform other researchers, healthcare providers, and/or policymakers. In November 2022, the Army said the service will publish a long-awaited regulation dedicated to standardizing its suicide prevention efforts across the force after reaching historic highs in suicide the previous years among its active duty personnel. What do you think, Jeff?
I think in 1900, that data may not be as robust as data that was collected in 2022.
Interesting point.
I think causes of death are I would like to see some sample data on over the time period, because there's a correlation between the time windows of the war, and they said that it does go up. I don't know. I think I personally think that it probably is, but I don't have data myself. And I think in older wars, more people died who saw really traumatic things. I think people survive really traumatic things now. We have medicines improved, and then they see their friends, and I mean, you've seen your friends die in all wars, but I do think that the more recent data is probably more valuable. And the reality is, unless people leave notes, you don't know why. So we're trying to correlate many factors, and my only fear is that this could lessen the effectiveness of some suicide prevention programs by not tying it to what I still believe is a major contributing factor. I don't know.
It's an interesting point. You made me think that maybe in the 1800s, 1900s, they're not going to say that it was suicide. Families would not be so forthcoming in that. In my own family, every generation has somebody, I believe every generation, if not most, has somebody, if not two people, that have killed themselves. And I know I don't know that through their death certificates, except for a few. But the very much older ones, it's through stories, So if those people didn't choose to tell me those stories, then I wouldn't really know that and be able to piece that together through, the ancestry.com death certificates and things like that. So I also wonder that. I think that's a great point you bring up, how much of it is good data from back then. And, families also, they hide things that they don't want people to know, right? So it's, okay, that's not what actually happened. Let's reframe it. So.
Especially, we were more religious back then, and, a lot of people thought that you didn't want it to be suicide because you couldn't go to heaven.
Right.
So I think they would justify it some other way. No, they didn't kill themselves, but I mean, I don't know. I hope that this does more good than the potential harm that I see.
Yeah, me too.
All right.
Me too.
And I think it's important that we carry on with our mission, to be the one for the American Legion. And then the VA is doing some great work as well. Today, we're going to be joined by VA Vet Center's Chief Readjustment Counseling Officer, Mike Fisher. Mike served in the Pennsylvania Army National Guard and was deployed to Iraq in 2005. He was medically discharged after his deployment and got connected to Vet Center during his transition experience. We'll be back to talk more with Mike about his journey and learn more about Vet Center right after, what we're going to do, the break.
The American Legion is raising awareness about PTSD and veteran suicide by offering hope, camaraderie, and support.
Be the one to help end veteran suicide.
The goal of the American Legion's Be the One campaign is to destigmatize asking for mental health support.
Be the one to ask a veteran in your life how they're doing.
Be the one who saves one veteran.
Go to BeTheOne.org and help the American Legion end veteran suicide.
Will you be the one?
Alphas, did you enjoy your break? Are you feeling better, feeling healthy and wellnessy? Well, we are back with the Tango Alpha Lima Experience. We have special guest Mike Fisher from the Vet Center. Hello, Mike. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
I'm outstanding, ridiculously so, actually. So what we're gonna, I have friends that work or used to work for the Vet Center, and then they're in other parts of the VA now, and I've heard about all the good work that you do. So I'm glad that you're here, going to be spreading the good word of the Vet Center. We're gonna let Ashley ask the first question because it's in her contract. So go ahead, Ashley.
It's because Jeff loves me so much. Let's get in on the ground floor. Tell me, what are vet centers?
So vet centers are a part of the Veterans Health Administration, or VHA. We're locations that are located within your community. We're separate from VA medical centers, and our focus is working with those individuals, whether that's active duty veterans and their families who served in dangerous places or experienced certain kinds of trauma. So that organization in VHA that provides readjustment counseling to eligible individuals from our community-based locations.
What is the? Can you speak more about who is eligible?
Sure. You know, at its highest level, it doesn't matter where you are in your journey. If you're a veteran, if you're an active duty service member, if you're a member of the National Guard Reserve, if you meet one of our eligibility criteria, you can actually come into a vet center now and for the rest of your life. Like I said before, our eligibility criteria is really centered around service in dangerous places or experiencing certain kinds of trauma, whether that is service in a combat zone, area of hostility. Maybe you worked on an unmanned aerial vehicle crew doing combat operations really from anywhere in the world, or experienced a military sexual trauma. Now, we have a website, vetcenter.va.gov, that actually has a full list of all of the eligibility criteria. But like we said, it's really based around that service in that dangerous place or as part of an activation or deployment, as well as experiencing certain kinds of trauma.
Gotcha. We often refer to Fort Hood as a dangerous place. So Fort Hood, you find your vet center. Mm-hmm. Okay. Having known some people that work there, it's not biomedicine, it's more mental health and trauma treatment, correct?
Absolutely. So I think let's start with the services that we provide at Vet Center. So every vet center does individual, group, marriage, family counseling. We also partner with community partners, and our role is to become that one-stop shop for whatever your readjustment needs might be in that particular community. Now, I think it's also important to define what is readjustment counseling, and we view it as a spectrum of services, where on one side of the spectrum, it's what do I do now that I'm not in a combat zone? Do I stay in the military? Do I get out? Do I use my benefits? All the way to the other side of the spectrum, which is I'm thinking about hurting myself for somebody else, or I've experienced significant war trauma or military sexual trauma, and then everything in between. So it's on one side of the spectrum, it's socioeconomic type services. On the other side, it's your more traditional mental health type services. But back to your question, it's counseling, all designed to have that veteran or service member set a goal in that spectrum, create a support structure around themselves to accomplish that goal. That's our ability to be able to provide services to families. They accomplish the goal and then identify another goal. And it's this lifelong process of doing that over and over again.
So what, I know you were in the PA Army National Guard infantry, and what made you want to become involved with Vet Center?
Well, it was actually, I returned from Iraq in 2005. I was in a medical hold unit and trying to figure out what my next steps were going to be. And it was a vet center counselor that wouldn't let me shut my barracks room door on him until I went and talked to him. That really made all the difference. You know, in my time when all I wanted to do was say no, he forced me to say yes. And it was the best thing that's ever happened to me. And I think that's what we do at vet centers. We help people say yes when they're struggling with no. In my case, it was stigma. It was I didn't have a problem. And the reality is I did. And he was the one that really got me over that hurdle. So it was that first introduction that really got me, this is what I want to do now, life after deployment. Not only, deal with my own readjustment challenges, get to figure out, try to figure out how to work with my family again or be connected to my family, but then also move to that professionally.
Wow. So the vet center is a part of the VA. And that wasn't a question I tend to get there. So the vet center is part of the VA. Now the VA offers in the general hospital or medical center, similar services. How did the vet center come to be, and what need are they doing that the larger VA cannot?
Sure. So vet centers were created in 1979 because VA, with the help of Congress, recognized that the Vietnam combat veteran was not coming into VA for services. So through a course of what was called the readjustment studies, with our partner VSOs actually provided for us, we found trust and the quality of services were some of the reasons why those individuals were not coming in for services. So they created vet centers separate from the medical centers, further into the communities, but also staffed with fellow Vietnam veterans. And this was actually one of the beginnings of the peer-to-peer model in VA. So our role was to go out and find all of those individuals who served in Vietnam, get them comfortable with the idea of using VA, and then when they were comfortable, getting them out to other places. So we've blossomed to where we are now, which our eligibility is expanded, but never lost sight of that peer-to-peer or veteran-to-veteran or veteran-to-veteran connection. Now, I think what makes us unique is that an individual comes into a vet center might not yet be eligible for VA medical center services or might not yet has engaged VA medical center services. I think about individuals that might have concerns about confidentiality, law enforcement, or individuals that are not yet ready in their journey to go down that path. And I see vet centers as that entry place into VA. We start providing services, counseling, or able to create that veteran connection, and then work to find other places in VA that person or that individual might be eligible for, other services, and begin to make those connections.
Wow. Ashley, got something? You want me to keep going? No, go ahead.
I think it's all neat. They have recently you came out with a vet center scholarship program, which is pretty interesting to me. Who is eligible? What does it do? What are you hoping to achieve with it?
Sure. So thank you for asking that. Yes, we did come out with a scholarship program. It is open to anyone who is working towards advanced degrees in social work, psychology, licensed professional counseling, marriage, family therapy. And our hope, and this is in part of the requirements for the scholarship, is that we'll pay for your degree, and then you'll come and work for us at a vet center. And actually, the requirement is 6 years worth of service at vet centers. We hope that anyone who's interested to apply, specifically those, we're going to put a priority on veterans or any active duty service members that are beginning to think about that transition out. And then also any individual who has that heart or that connection to wanting to work with veterans and service members.
As the military spouse of the year for the Air Force, I would be remiss to not bring up letting spouses do it too.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely. I think at vet centers, what makes us unique is that first, we're a non-medical model. And really what that means is that while we don't diagnose, we focus on symptoms associated with diagnosis. And when you go into a vet center, we also provide that individual choice as to who they're going to make that initial connection with. That could be a fellow veteran, it could be a non-veteran, it could be a military spouse. And I think there's value in each one of those kind of areas, because there's definitely different experiences and perspectives that all of those groups bring in. So yeah, absolutely.
Totally. Do you, is it all, you have to actually go into a vet center, or do you have anything that's like virtual?
We do provide virtual services. the one benefit of the pandemic has taught that we made that, or has taught us that we can make that shift very quickly. Now, so we do provide virtual services at vet centers, and our focus now is getting back to more face-to-face, with also that opportunity to provide virtual. Now, I think one of the other things that we do, and it's not just, so we have 300 vet centers. We're in every state, the District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, Guam, American Samoa. We also have locations or satellite locations that are further in or deeper into communities that are distant from those locations. And our focus is really about decreasing barriers to care. We know drive time might be a barrier to care. So we send out our staff to provide services in those communities. In fact, it could be, borrowing space from a local American Legion location, where we just have a confidential counseling space where we provide services in that community.
That's great.
Yeah, I find the vet centers to be very nimble. I see them around a lot. I believe that they had a booth at our convention last year. They were at the Rock at the Boston Marathon. I saw a truck there. You guys are, and you give good little tchotchkes at your thing. You have a stress ball that I've destroyed, so I'm gonna have to go back and get a new one.
Get another one
next year. At next year's convention. So, how do you measure your success? How do you know this was a great year for us, or better luck next year? How do you determine that?
The first thing I'd like to address, if you guys are comfortable with it, is a point that you just brought out, that vet centers are everywhere. You see them out at events and stuff like that. And I would be remiss not to thank our amazing staff at every vet center across the country. And I think that's in part of either having that military experience where you're able to continue that mission, as well as having that heart for being able to connect with veterans and service members, that just have our staff going out and finding any opportunity they can to engage with veterans and service members to create access to care. Now, going back to the point that you brought up, one of the things that we're most proud of, and I'm going to talk a little bit about customer feedback, is our trust score. And our trust score today is 90, almost 93, almost 94% of those that respond back trust vet centers to improve the quality of their life. And it's something that we pay a lot of attention to. And I think the one metric that is important to us, because that shows us that we're meeting the needs in those local communities.
Gotcha. I was just looking up, you can go to this, where am I at? vetcenter.va.gov if you're out there. I was checking out first the eligibility and then some other things that we've discussed, just so I can bookmark them for later to share at my post, because
There you go.
it's a great resource. So you're everywhere, you're doing all of these things. You do have a model of measurement. Do you see any growth in the vet center model and expansion of eligibility?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about just growth. One of the things that we are working on right now is creating more vet center locations. That could be more of our satellite locations that we talked about before. We're looking at expanding our mobile vet center fleet, which actually allows us to get into those distant communities, as well as creating more vet centers. On the other side of that is we are seeing some expansion in eligibilities, bringing us into additional groups that might have served in dangerous places or having those kind of experiences. You guys brought up Fort Hood, and I think about the shootings that happened there, a couple of years ago. Those individuals that responded to that were a part of that, are also eligible for vet center services. So it's not necessarily having to serve in a combat zone. We also have eligibilities that we've expanded recently into looking at stateside activations or stateside deployments where we're dealing with civil disorder, natural disaster, emergency response. That also includes individuals in the National Guard their governor activates them, who might not yet have that veteran designation.
Yeah, I think that's great, just to be able to cover the mental health of all of these different groups that are around things that aren't typical. If only 1% of the population joins the military, then they're going to see some wild stuff. I know so I was at Dover for a bit, and Dover is where mortuary affairs are, right? So if somebody dies overseas, you only go to Dover. So you get used to certain things, like that something has happened when you hear the helicopters, the presidential helicopter comes in, or if the Department of the Army comes in. And the way that you work at the mortuary affairs is if you're in services. So if you're in Air Force services, which means that you can work in the gym, and then you go on a 6-month essentially stateside deployment, TD, whatever they designate it as, where you go work in mortuary affairs, or you go work in the department that handles all of the people that are coming through. You're dealing with these things that are exceptionally traumatic. And then you go back to the chow hall, or you go back to the gym. And fortunately, they have recognized that they can only have people do that in short stints, and that they have down days and a lot of mental health days and things like that. So I think, go ahead, Jeff. Sorry.
I was going to say that's on their list.
That's on there. There you
list.
go.
It actually says provided mortuary direct emergent medical care to treat the casualties of war.
Yeah, I understand that.
I think getting to that point, and that is recognizing that war, deploying to war, it doesn't just affect those that are in country. It affects, in this case, individuals that are dealing every day with the realities of war in a mortuary affairs unit. That is a doctor, nurse dealing, on a burn unit in San Antonio, dealing with the IEDs, are dealing every day with the realities of war. And I think what's exciting is those individuals can come into a vet center. That spouse that's also dealing with that. Excuse me.
I'm sorry. It kind of leads me to a question, and the answer I've heard wasn't the answer I want to hear, so I'm going to keep asking it till I get the right answer. Mom told me no, I'm going to Dad. So people in the military, I knew people in the military that died in training incidents, but there are also people who have survived in training incidents, whether something sunk or fell out of the sky or whatever. Are they eligible for these if they weren't in a combat zone?
So I think the first thing is our website, we've talked about that before, has all of the different areas of eligibility. Now, if an individual is truly ineligible for vet center services, we're not going to turn them away. Our focus, though, is about getting a better understanding of their experience, and then hopefully trying to get a connection to where they might be eligible for services. Okay. Now, so it's getting a better understanding of their experience and all of that. And there's another reason why we do that. I think about an individual who might have experienced a military sexual trauma, but is not yet ready to say that. So as we provide, some of these services, try to get a better understanding of where we can make a referral, we're building trust and really looking for ways to qualify that individual for services, creating a therapeutic relationship that they might be willing to say, I experienced this. Or I also think about an individual that might have deployed to Iraq but never left the wire, and maybe they don't consider themselves a combat veteran. I think in our ability to be able to have those conversations with them, our hope is that we can flush some of that out and find a way to qualify that individual rather than disqualify them. Now, if they're not eligible, our focus then is where can we make that connection?
Oh, very cool.
Try to get to yes.
So in Los Angeles, get ready to be deluged with people that I'm going to send to the vet center. You may want to staff it up a little bit. Speaking of, I'm going to shout out Krishna Flores. There you go. She's who my main information source about the vet center in LA, but she's going through a training program at the main VA now. So shout out to her. What else is happening in the vet center that Ashley and I didn't bring up that you think might be important here?
Sure. So we talk just a little bit more about eligibility. You know, we talked about there's specific, criteria. You served in this place, you did this thing. One of the other things, and we briefly brought this up, once you're eligible for life. That could be today, that could be tomorrow. You could come into a vet center 10 years from now, or for that entire 10-year period. Vet center eligibility is lifelong. There is also no cost to our service. In fact, everything has been prepaid through military service. We do not require enrollment in VHA healthcare. We don't require service connection. We don't means test. And that really goes back to being that safe place to begin that journey. Now, as we find out that there might be other benefits and services that individual might be eligible for, then we start making those connections. Lastly, we will provide services regardless of discharge character. So that includes individuals with problematic discharges. So really trying to become that place, that non-bureaucratic place to enter VA services. The other side of that is that family members can also come in. And that gets back to our focus is helping that create a support structure around that veteran or service member to accomplish whatever goals they might have. So we will provide services for families to help do that. We also provide bereavement counseling to anyone that loses a loved one while that individual was serving on active duty. That could be stateside, overseas, it's just as long as the death happened there on active duty, as well as bereavement counseling for any active clients who passed their families. We will be rolling out in the next couple of months additional bereavement counseling available to any family members of a veteran who dies by suicide. And we'll let you guys know when that gets rolled out. So, but we do provide services for family members because, they experience challenges too, I think, as we know when we're deployed and all of that. I like to think that, when I was in Iraq, I had the easy job. My family, who was home worrying, I think it was rough, or they had a harder job than I did.
Well, I know Ashley appreciates the family aspect being included there, because as she often says, if you don't take care of the family, you don't take care of the service member. Is that how you say it?
If you don't support the military families, you don't support the military.
There you go. That's how she says it.
There's my catchphrase.
I'm very good at paraphrasing, really bad at quoting. So thank you for correcting my paraphrase. Well, I want to thank you, Mike, for all the work that you do. You are what are you? Something important. VA Vet Centers. I'm going to say Chief Readjustment Counseling Officer. That's amazing. And I'm not going to forget that who we're being watched by right now, Jessica. She's a communications officer. So we have a communication. He's so important. He's supported.
I don't know about that. I appreciate the kind words. I think what's more important is the work that happens every day at our vet centers, and those staff they're the real important ones. So thank you for
just like the military talk. You can't have the combatants without the support. They wouldn't get their
exactly.
They wouldn't get their weapons. They wouldn't get fed. They wouldn't get transported. All that sort of thing. So thanks to both of you for all the things that you do. It sounds like what you're doing is fitting in with the brand new mission of the greater VA, which was to be more inclusive. And we recently recorded a story on that. So stay tuned for that out there, alphas. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to the Vet Center, and thank you specifically to Michael Fisher here. And what we're going to do is, everybody out there, you're eligible to talk about the Vet Center with us without Michael after the break.
By pulling out your cell phone and simply typing www.legion.org/action, you have at your fingertips our legislative priorities. With one press of a button, you can let your congressmen and your senators know what the American Legion wants to pass, and you can do it every single day. The power is in our hands. You just have to take the opportunity to use it.
All right, we are back from the break. That was, for me, a very enlightening and inspiring interview. How did you feel?
Great. I learned a lot about Vet Center, and I feel like I can recommend them to people, especially since they seem to be growing. They want to expand and help more people. So
And as super producer Holly has pointed out, it's a great resource for people out there who are trying to be the one. If you are the one of the tangible things that you can do is to send someone to get quality care with in a safe environment where they're anonymous to the bigger VA and other outside organizations. Get them to the vet center. That's big advice that it's coming from Holly, but I get to say it. All right, are we ready, Ash? You know what we got?
Oh, locked and loaded.
Yeah, but you're not hands-free this time, so
No, I
you
just
only
I can,
get one.
it's okay.
Oh, she's a multitask. That's how she runs and picks up trash. She multitasks. All right, here we go. It's now time for this week's. What's the word I'm looking for, Holly? I almost said episode, huh? Installment. Oh, is it an installment?
Oh.
All right, we're gonna call it an installment now, Alphas. And now it's ready time for this week's installment of pew, 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 rapid fire. Okay, rapid fire number 1. American Legion removes Confederate flag after vet's curie. A Confederate flag that was on display. This is from the Daily Beast. A Confederate flag that was on display at American Legion Hall in Idaho was removed this week after a veteran questioned its presence. It started causing a bit of a stir amongst the crowd, J.D. Lightly, who attended the event at the Post, told the Spokesman Review. I'm looking at that going, I don't know if that should be in an American Legion, but I don't know what the rules are. Tim Shaw, an adjutant at the Post, said he and the commander decided to remove it from the flag display in the banquet room. I don't want to give in to the mob, but I don't want to offend anyone either, Shaw said. If we had left it up, it would have been a bigger story. It's a no-win situation.
No, here's how you win. You take the flag away.
Right.
How about that's an easy win.
That's a win-win.
Yeah,
I do. I thought about this one because I don't want to feed in to any of this negative stereotypes, because I have never been to an American Legion post that had anything like that. So I'm glad that they took it down. I'm proud of them for taking it down, and I hope this story, if there are any more out there, hopefully this will inspire them to take it down.
Take it down.
All right.
Oh,
It was
super producer Holly has something to say here.
that
It was part of a
go ahead.
historical display of all flags.
And
She
right.
says not that
So
it justifies it,
No.
but just to give reference. Now I'm going to do it. Every time you type something, I'm going to read it exactly how I use it.
Even typos?
Even typos.
Because those happen. All right, we're gonna wait.
Now
Ladies
she's
and
putting in
gentlemen,
bad things.
we didn't just all erupt into laughter. She wrote, and I quote, "shark farts." I don't know if that
I don't even know if
is
we
an
do
actual phrase or not, but it is now. It's an alpha.
that.
It's in the alpha lexicon, if you will.
We took a hard right
Right.
turn.
Oh, Liz Lemon. I love her. Tina Fey was one of my teachers at Second City. Anyway, rapid fire number pew pew 2.
Pew, pew.
Legionnaires warned not to download unauthorized My Legion app. This comes from the illustrious Legion.org. American Legion National Headquarters IT staff has become aware of an unauthorized My Legion app currently available from the Android and Apple stores. The app was created by organizations identified as Giant Killer in the Apple App Store and Feel Good 7 in the Google Play Store. Please do not engage with these sellers or download the app, as they do not have permission to use our name and likeness, and they are charging a monthly fee. I can tell you right now, Legionnaires are not going to pay a monthly
Yeah,
fee
they're
for
fine.
that. That's never going to happen. Don't worry about that. The American Legion's intellectual property attorney is exploring legal options. American Legion headquarters has no plans to produce a fee-for-service app. We're actively working on a mobile application focused on helping local posts and individual members. When the official app is ready, it will be announced through official legal channels, probably here, and will be identified with the American Legion as the seller once published to the App Store. This is troubling. I mean, there's a lot of this kind of news out there now.
Yeah, you know what? It's where we're headed, right? I don't know how to hide from things anymore. Or when I say something in an interview, it'll pop up in it's almost like there's an automated writer of like websites and things like that. There's a few websites that talk about my net worth, and it's wrong. And it talks about my sometimes it says my wife, and I'm like, well, no. There's a photo of that they took of my husband giving me flowers at one of his change of commands, and it says, and Ashley gives her husband flowers. Like stuff like that. Talks about my shoe size, says it's a 6. No, I got 9.5. So I got big boats over here. So it's all wrong. But they will
for your gift giving list. She wears size 9.
9.5. Yeah.
9.5. Sorry.
So I don't know how to protect ourselves from things like this. So I guess we just lean in, just ruin our lives and our identities, and then recreate ourselves.
Yeah, I think it's important to pay attention to these kind of things. I get alerts about different apps to avoid. They're never apps I would get anyway. And the My Legion app is free. It's available. Get that one. Look at who the seller is, and make sure that the creator. I don't know if they use the word seller, but look at the creator of the app, and just take an extra couple seconds to make sure that it's legit. The harder thing for me is all the people that get kind of they get cloned into another, and then they ask me to friend them, and then several of my less tech savvy friends will have already done it, and I go, oh no, we have mutual friends, and I almost click it, and then I go, wait a minute, I think I already am friends. So I look them up, and lo and behold, it's just getting nutty.
Yeah, somebody did that to me on Twitter, and in fact, it's still out there. But you took all my pictures and all that stuff, and in order for me to get them taken down, I had to submit to Twitter all of my driver's licenses and things like that, and then hope. And I was like, you know what? They can just have it.
Oh, so just so if you're out there and you haven't joined the American Legion, what? Yet? If you're in the VFW, they've made a My VFW app as well. So again, if you're looking at apps, look at who made it, and don't download it if you don't know that entity.
Yep.
All right, this is from, I might have to give it equal time because this could be considered political in favor of me. Legiontown.org.
Mayor.
I'm running for mayor of Legiontown. A job that doesn't exist until we make it so. All right, this is in, I got this one. I thought of you. AG 2.0. This is in San Antonio.
Whoop, whoop.
Fred Brock, Post 828, honors Vietnam veterans, family members during National Vietnam War Veterans Day. Again, this is at Legiontown, USA. To honor Vietnam veterans and their families during the 50th anniversary of the Vietnam War, Fred Brock American Legion Post 828 hosted its National Vietnam War Veterans Day program at the Post's Event Center. The program featured a meal sponsored by Humana and free live entertainment by the Legends. In 2012, the United States launched a 13-year-long commemoration of the 50th anniversary of the Vietnam War to ensure that every veteran, family member, caregiver, and survivor impacted by the difficult years in Vietnam feels the nation's gratitude for their service. Our Vietnam veterans have been hit very hard with illnesses and advancing age, said Post Commander Burrell Palmer. They are our heroes, and it is fitting to honor them and their loved ones with a meal and entertainment. Our Vietnam veterans did not receive the proper welcome home back then, said Palmer. They are welcome home now, and always to include a home with Fred Brock, post 828. I echo that. Welcome home, Vietnam veterans. You're awesome.
Welcome home. I guess I got to go visit post 828.
Oh, you might be 828. You might be getting a little celebrity drop in. I don't know. Yes, I called you celebrity.
Thank you.
Mostly so that I can tell.
Angelina Jolie, but
Yep, no. Mostly so that I can say that I know a celebrity. So I'm going to push that narrative as long as it makes me look good. All right. Do you have a shout out? I have one.
I do not have a shout out.
All right, my JD shout out, I've named it now, is going to Krishna Flores for the hard work and pride she had in her vet center position. She is probably the best advocate that they could have had. I didn't know what it was, what it did, or anything, and she always filled me in. She's now in some fancy VA management training program, so VA, look out. If she's even half as committed to that as she was the vet center, the VA experience is only going to get better. All right. You want to take us home?
Let's take us home. Hey, Alphas, don't forget to subscribe to the Tango Alpha Lima podcast. Why are you searching every week when it could be sent right to you? Subscribe to us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you consume those podcasts, and leave us a review. Give us a big old 5-star rating. Otherwise, when I pass away, I'm going to come back and haunt you. Leave a 5-star rating so the world knows how much you love us. If you have a guest recommendation, go to legion.org/Tango Alpha Lima and click on the Suggest a Guest link. I want to talk to who you want me to talk to. Let's ask them those probing questions like, are you left-handed or right-handed? Which is something that I asked a Homeland Security officer that I was sitting next to on a plane.
I'm sure that was memorable for them. Oh, alphas, those probing questions, those questions that we ask ourselves every day, like, why is the world not populated with more alphas, and what can I do about it? That's easy. You can send them to the aforementioned places that AG 2.0 just rained down upon your brains. And with that, I'm going to declare Season 4, Episode 154, Mission